So let's get started. Developing a project plan. So we are at the stage 2 of the life cycle in the planning phase for those visual learners who like to see it as a picture. So how do we make sure everyone knows what to do, when to do it, what our expectations are, and which things to watch out for? That's a tongue twister. So we all know, because we're the project team, but imagine we've got another 10 people or 30 people coming on board. We need to start communicating all of this stuff to everybody. So let's have a little look at this. We've got the summary of our scope, of course our budget based on the preliminary budget yesterday. That budget would generally require a lot more research than we did yesterday. Obviously we didn't have the facilities for that. The schedule, communication plan, HR, quality, procurement and risk. So let's have a little bit of a look. The scope part of your project plan, the scope management section. So we need to take some information from our project charter, such as the objectives, the deliverables, the inclusions and exclusions, constraints and the roles of the stakeholder, and something called the scope control process. Have we heard anything about control processes or change control yet? Yeah? Who talked to us about change control? Dr. Lee Ellen Potter. Yes, yesterday. Alright, so let's have a little bit of a look at that. The first part is of course the basic details, the name of the project number, the author. Was that my ding? Have I done my 5 minutes? So back on track. Project name, project number, the manager, the sponsor, the client, the date. And then we've got the document management section, which is the version control and the distribution list. Then of course we go through all the standard stuff that we talked about before. So the objective, which was of course the relocating to head office, 41 staff, yada yada. Your objective was a little bit different to that. The deliverable itself, so the product or products that you were delivering. And the inclusions. So where did you write all this down yesterday? In your charter document? We also have the exclusions. So what's an exclusion on a project? We are definitely not doing that. It's like having a function and excluding alcohol.
What?
A blue light disco and excluding alcohol, sorry. Sorry, our stakeholders. Now by now, if we've taken our stakeholder list directly from our charter, we may not have sufficient stakeholders on our list. Why?
We haven't engaged with everybody yet.
We haven't. Maybe not. At this stage we should be developing our stakeholder list and engaging with a whole range of additional people, suppliers and people, community members involved in that project. So you'll probably find your stakeholder list when you move to your planning phase is much more extensive than in the early stages of the scope part.
Give you documentation to all the stakeholders.
No. That's why we have a distribution list and a stakeholder list. So this is basically a contact database, and it says who's involved, what their role is, and how to contact them. Some organisations have electronic contact registers and so on, which is kept on the system, and everyone can access that. But for a specific project, it's good to have them listed out. Then there's the constraints. So what was a constraint? Something that limits your project or sets boundaries on your project. Good. So we're talking timeframes, could be budget, it could be location, it could be staffing, facilities, vehicles, and so on. And the assumptions, of course, we talked about earlier. Okay, so scope control processes, a formal process to enact change activities or what to do if something changes on a project. So you need a process in place if something changes. And this is where you're going to have to start doing a little bit of work rather than just listening to me ramble. What would you do? Tell me step by step if on a project something changed, so the client changed their mind, or you came up with an issue that you weren't aware of previously,
Swear.
so you finish that bit, you swear, you go, golly, goodness gracious me, that's going to be a problem. Then what would you do? Just naturally, what do you think the steps would be that you take to deal with this issue?
Discuss with other people.
Yes, so there's some communication,
Find alternatives.
find alternative options, solutions to the problem. Yeah.
Go back to your planning and see how it impacts.
Look at the impact on your planning in terms of scheduling and in terms of budget and in terms of every other aspect of your planning as well. Your procurement, your ordering times, your lead times and so on. And what did Dr. Potter say? The first thing was that you should do
Get it in writing.
get it in writing. Okay, particularly if the client came up with it. Get it in writing. Perfect. Okay. So let's have a look. We've got some steps to follow. So the process is basically, one, identify what the issue is and what the real issue is. Sometimes you might come up with a problem, but that's not actually the true problem. You need to investigate and look deeper and find out what that true issue is. So it could be you build houses. You just build normal residential houses, and suddenly there's a wet area on site. And you think, oh, there must be a broken pipe underneath. I didn't know there were pipes underneath. It didn't say that on the town planning thing, whatever. So you need to investigate that and find out there's actually a natural spring there. So that, of course, is going to entirely change the type of foundations you need for that house and so on and so forth. But you needed to investigate and identify. So you identify it, then you evaluate it. What is it going to cost us? What do we have to change? Who's going to be involved in that and so on? You propose the alternative plan, or this is your variation request. Put that paperwork in place and you get it authorised to continue. And your client says, goodness me, I'm not spending an extra $70,000 on that. Let's just forget about it for now. Or your client says, yeah, absolutely, let's continue. Now there's two types of variations that you look at. There's one that your client pays for and there's one that you pay for.
Good one and a bad one.
Yeah, the one where you stuffed up and the one where your client stuffed up. Or changed their mind. So, if you've made a mistake in your work, you may well have to bear the cost of that. But if it's caused by a lack of information or lack of disclosure or someone changing their mind, they then have to bear the cost for that. So that would be part of getting your variation approved. And we've got some templates we'll look at shortly. So let's have a little bit of a look at an example. So if we're thinking about the 4-step process, the process for control, so if you identify a change which changes over the value of $50, a variation request form must be completed and submitted to the project manager for approval. It'd be funny on your project, it'd be for variations over 5 cents. You've got to do a form, you've only got a $40 project. $50 could be $500, it could be $5,000, it depends on the authorisation levels of the managers on that project. For changes under the value of 50, an email must be sent to the project manager advising of the change. This is an example of a process. Number 3, in the instance of a safety risk, implement any necessary and appropriate action immediately with the assistance of the Workplace Health and Safety Officer. If possible, and retrospectively complete a variation request form and provide it to the project manager. How long is this sentence? Within 1 hour of the action being implemented. So, if it's a safety risk, just fix it. This is an example of what you could do in a control process. So your organisation would have their own standards based on that, or you'd have to make them up yourself. Change evaluation. The project manager should determine how the change will affect the schedule, budget, contractor staff, the ordering, yada yada, the quality, the risks, the stakeholders, and the office move itself. So this is the example from your textbook. Solution. The project manager should recommend a solution to the change if a suitable one has not already been recommended as soon as possible, at least within 1 working day. So these guys are on a short schedule for this project. but you'll probably find on larger projects it could be a lot longer than that. And approval, the project manager should authorise the change option selected and seek approval from any other relevant parties and the direct manager prior to implementing the change. So basically they're saying if it's going to cost us money, get it in writing so someone else can pay for it, ideally. So if you were going to do a change control process for your project, how would it work? So if you needed to get a variation done for your project, and say you needed an extra portion of money to cover the cost of your project, I'm not handing out money here, just so you know in advance, this is hypothetical. If you say your project was going to cost $60 instead of $40, that's a 50% budget increase. That's quite a significant extra cost on a project if it's 40 million. But what would you do? What steps would you take? So if you said, who can I pick on here? Matthew said, okay, we want to do this project, we want to prepare this particular product, but for us to do it properly, it's going to cost us $57 instead of $40. We really think it's a great product, it will meet all the needs, it's a step above anything we could do for $40. We want to get that happening. What steps could Matthew then take, or what steps could you take?
Provide a business plan.
You could do a business plan, or you could do a business case for it, yeah? It doesn't have to be a big thing, it could be a paragraph really. So you go through the process, you identify what the change is, you evaluate how it will affect all of these areas, you propose your solution, and you put in a form for approval, which would be a variation request form.